It's been 5 months since the Eaton Fire tore through Altadena, and in that time, the recovery has been slow, emotional, and uncertain. In this episode of Altadena After the Fire, we will take you inside a powerful live town hall hosted by our partner station, KBLA Talk 1580 in Los Angeles, where community members, legal experts, and local leaders came together to talk about what happened, what hasn't, and what still needs to be done. This is a raw and honest conversation about resilience, accountability, and the right to rebuild, told by the people living it every day. This is Altadena After the Fire.
Better than that, let them hear that you're in the building. As I said, we are in Pasadena today for this Altadena Eaton Fire 100 Days and Counting in Pasadena live, in large measure because there is no space in Altadena that could hold us given all the devastation from these fires 100 days ago today. And so we are gathered here today for this live town hall for the next 2 hours here on KBLA Talk 1580, Altadena Eaton Fire 100 Days and Counting. I've been asked a number of times over the last few days, what do we expect to get out of this town hall? That's easy. Glad you asked. What has happened, what has not happened, and what needs to happen. That is the frame of our conversation for the next 2 hours. What has happened, what has not happened, and what needs to happen. If you're watching us on YouTube, I hope you can see all around this room, people literally standing around the walls, gathered in this room for this conversation on KBLA Talk 1580. I wanted to say 2 or 3 things. Mine is not to belabor the point. I want to get right to Dominique DiPrima in this first hour to moderate this conversation. So I don't want to, again, belabor anything. But I do want to say that I came out early today. I got off the air earlier today, and I had not made it to Altadena. I know that there are all kinds of looky-loos and others who are coming out here to see what had happened. Certainly out of respect for residents who were trying to get back into their neighborhoods. I didn't want to be one of those persons crowding into Altadena, but I got off the air today, and I came out here for 2 hours. And my friend James Farr, who's the host of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising on our station. Give James Farr some love. This is the show of record. It is the show of record. We are the only station, Altadena Rising, hosted by our friend James Farr. I called James, said, James, when I get off the air, I want to come out earlier because I want you to take me through these neighborhoods. I want to get out of the car and walk through these streets. And all I can tell you, if you're listening and watching across the country, is that the pictures do not do justice to the devastation. When you get out of the car and you walk it, you don't just see it, but you feel it. I was heartened by the fact that I saw utility trucks and folks in hazmat suits. And so I am delighted, again, to bring the podium here in just 2 seconds. My colleague, Dominique DiPrima, she's the host of First Things First, weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I take the handoff from her every day, and I couldn't ask for a better lead-in than Dominique, who will moderate this first panel. She will introduce the esteemed guest when she gets to the podium. In our second hour, we'll have another round of august personalities to take the stage. In that second hour conversation will be moderated by Dr. Nicquetta, the host of A More Perfect Union. We are, as a matter of fact, are in his time slot right now. So we're borrowing an hour of his time for 2 hours of his time, essentially, for this conversation. So Dr. Corde is here, and you will hear him in his regular time slot moderating the second and final hour of this conversation. I'll come back at the end for some special announcement. But before I pass the mic to Dominique, let me just ask you one more time, live on the air, to thank Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers for making this conversation possible. We thank Quinn Emanuel. With that said, Dominique DiPrima is up next for the next hour. She will moderate this conversation. Please welcome the one and only Dominique DiPrima.
I'm pre-mic'd. Thank you, Tavis. Welcome, everyone, on behalf of KBLA Talk 1580, Quinn Emanuel, trial lawyers, and the people of Altadena, Pasadena. We're really glad to be here with you. And it's my honor to bring forth this panel and have some real conversation about where we are and where we're going. As Tavis Smiley has indicated, we at KBLA Radio, we are committed to the long haul here. We know this is a long process. You're not going to see us just, 100 days out and 100 hours out. We're here for the, 100 years out, God willing. So we want this to be part of a very ongoing conversation, and we're glad that you're here. we're glad to be bringing some resources with us today as well. As you know, we'll be giving away air purifiers and gift cards later in this hour. Right now, though, it is my pleasure to introduce our panel. I'm going to, go left to right. Yes, left to right. I'll start with my colleague, my sometime contributor on my show. He is a writer with the LA Progressive and the host of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, James Farr. So, James, I'll ask you, since you're covering day to day, where do you see this moment in the recovery 100 days out, ahead of where we should be, behind where we should be? Where do you see the timeline?
Thank you. Thank you. Am I hot? Thank you, Dominique, for the introduction. And to answer your question, I still think that we are in a space of relief right now. And as we tour the community and we understand that there is still a great need for resources as people are settling into a new normal and a new settlement, it may be a little premature for recovery, but in this moment, what I see in this audience is resilience. I see the roots of Altadena. I see the reunions coming. I see the rebuilding coming. I see hope, and I see optimism.
Well, optimism is a good thing, and one of the things I've been most inspired by is the spirit of the people of Altadena and the helping of one another, and the spirit of we're here for the long haul. We're not going anywhere. I am really intrigued by what's happening and what's going to be happening for people in terms of their rights and their ability to rebuild. And we're joined by a partner in Quinn Emanuel, the partner in the Los Angeles office. She focuses on class action, litigation, internal investigations, data privacy and security, and intellectual property, but also complex business disputes and, interestingly, environmental litigation. Attorney Crystal Nix Hines, welcome. So my question for you has to do with, anyone who's spending any time in Altadena, Pasadena area right now knows that there's, a lot of people getting ready to bring cases. They perhaps are running into many lawyers. We know that Quinn Emanuel is on the list of the top 100 largest law firms in the entire country. That's right now representing wildfire victims. With all of these legal minds and competition in the area and the prominence of Quinn Emanuel, why are you here now? Why are you in this fight?
Well, thank you very much, Dominique. And first, I just want to begin by saying how sorry we are for those of you who have been impacted by the fires. You know that you've lost not only the devastation of your homes, but all the time it takes to deal with FEMA and insurance and finding temporary housing. So our hearts really go out for you. How many here are actually impacted by the fires? Quite a bit. So look, we're really sorry. And one of the reasons why we decided that we wanted to defend and represent wildfire victims in lawsuits is, this is our backyard, right? We were founded in the 1980s here in Los Angeles. The founder of our firm lives in Pasadena. A number of our lawyers were impacted by the fires as well. One of our members of our team has lost his third home now. And so this is personal to us. And we want to make sure that you have the best representation possible. And we're bringing the same resources and focus that we do to our Fortune 500 companies, because we want to make sure that Southern California Edison, which is the defendant in the Eaton Fire, is held accountable for what could have been prevented and what should have been prevented had they followed their own policies and turned off the power when they should have, when the winds reached over 60 miles per hour. So it's a privilege to really represent fire victims. I see some of our clients here in the room, and hearing your stories and all that you're going through, we want to make sure that you have the best representation possible. So that's why we're here.
Our next panelist is a 50-year resident of Altadena. He's one of the organizers behind the Pasadena Community Coalition, a Black Panther. Last time I talked to him, I had made the mistake of saying former Black Panther, but apparently once a Panther, always a Panther. And he sadly lost his home entirely during this fire, this disaster. Martin Gordon, welcome.
Thank you.
I know because we saw a show of hands by how many folks in this room are impacted, that this is not a new story for most of you, but for those listening in other states and other counties, if you could just share a little bit of your story and where you are now.
Ooh. Can you hear me? Oh, there you go. I'll try to do it very quickly because I'm not here to share this story. Really, I want to talk about something more important, is where we're going.
Yes.
But I do want people to know that I was sitting home in my house late at night. My wife was gone. I was asleep. She woke me up. She said, "Hey, you know the fire's coming." I said, "Yeah, the fire's always coming. You know, I'm not worried about it." She said, "No, I'm looking at the ring." She was in Sacramento taking care of her mom. She said, "I'm looking at the ring, and I can see the fire from the ring." So I laughed. I said, "Okay, honey, listen, yeah, I'm drinking some cognac. Yeah. So I'm going to stop." She said, "No, go and look at the front door." So I got up. I went to the front door. I looked out the window, and I kind of saw something like one of those fire movies. I went, not that far. I opened the door, looked across the street, and the fire was 3 football fields away from me. I went, oh, my God. I told my wife, I'm getting the dog. She said my son was coming to get me. I said, okay, that's good. Right in the middle of the conversation, the phone went off and my lights went out. I knew I was getting ready to die. I went, this is just coming too fast. Fortunately, my son got there in time. We pulled our stuff together. We got the heck out of there. And I went down to the bottom of the hill. I went, oh, no. I took the oldest car we have, mine. I loved it. And I said to an officer, I got to go back up there and get my wife's car or I'm going to die anyway. And so he said, I'm sorry, sir. You won't be going up there. Your house is gone. You better be glad you left when you did. So I'm happy to be alive. But more importantly, I feel like all of you people out here who have lost your homes and understand this. Everybody tells us what we need. Stop it. Ask us what we need and give us what we ask for. I don't need 20 more pairs of shoes. I don't need 20 more coats. I don't have a house to live in. If you made $100 million to give to us, give it to us to build back our homes. I need $500,000 to help build back my home. Bring the money home to the people. Otherwise, what did you collect it for? Did you collect it for yourself or did you collect it for Altadena? And I'm talking about these black people who actually have the highest rate of home ownership in the country and generational wealth. Bring black Pasadena back. I'm done.
Yes, indeed. Next panelist following that is a housing developer and a builder. Got a Master of Real Estate Development, comes in handy right now, from USC, and a Bachelor's in Urban and Regional Planning from Pomona, is a California licensed contractor, housing developer and builder. Joel Bryant, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominique.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say part of what's concerning all of us is exactly what piggybacks off what Martin Gordon just said, is we all want to build Altadena back blacker. We all want people to have their homes back. But I know it's a tough choice given, the insurance considerations, the pollution and toxins in the ground and even in the homes that did not burn. All of these different considerations. How do you see, the big picture of rebuilding at this point?
That is a big question.
Yeah.
Before we get into what I do today, I grew up in Altadena. Grew up around the intersection of Lincoln Altadena Drive. My wife grew up on Olive and Loma Alta. I live in Pasadena now. We still have a property up in Altadena which did burn. We have family members whose homes were burned. And I think we're all still traumatized in a way. But getting to the point of the real estate and the build back, like I tell people, January 7th, if you recall that day, it was a clear, windy, really windy day. 24 hours later, 6,600 homes in Altadena were gone. So what you immediately do after you've come down from the trauma of what just happened, and again, my wife gets text messages from her cousin at 3:13 in the morning who lost her home. She lives in Long Beach now, but she's just thinking about building back, but she can't sleep. Every homeowner, those who have decided that they want to rebuild, because studies show 1/3 of the folks will sell and move. And that's a concern too. But those that want to build back need to immediately become, they have to become like mini developers. They have to manage money. They have to manage their insurance policy along with the lender that puts controls on them. They have to manage the design of the home. And then they have to manage the construction of the home. And that's not a decision that, when you renovate a kitchen, you might take 5 years to do so. Here, in one night, it's all gone, and you have to immediately pivot and become this self-contained business entity. And there's so much to unpack here, but what I would say is each household needs to operate as a business entity with all the emotion that's in it, but set up an account which would allow them to manage the insurance proceeds, hire an architect you can trust, hire a contractor you can trust. That's the hard part. I have a friend at the Altadena Chamber told me after the fire, 50 contractors have joined the Altadena Chamber of Commerce. None of them are from this community. And as Martin alluded to, we have a community where the black homeownership is something that we've always known, but the world is finding out how special this place is. So I could go on about this matter, but I'm just grateful to be here and partake in this conversation.
And you have been building homes, including for homeless and for affordable housing, for many years.
I built affordable housing in Pasadena in this neighborhood, and that's part of the journey. Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. Now I want to introduce community organizer, one of the people behind Altadena Rising, the organization seeking to give families a voice in Altadena and Pasadena. Went to school here, has friends here, got family here, and happy to see her here. Ash Level, welcome.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
As a mama, one of the things I think about a lot when I'm reflecting on Altadena, Pasadena is the young people from little kids all the way through college, because y'all just came through COVID, right? A lot of people got robbed of their proms, robbed of their high school experience, and were very traumatized. And now this, which again, even the grown folks are traumatized by. What is, as a younger activist, what are you seeing and hearing? And to Martin Gordon's point, what are you seeing and hearing that young people need?
Yeah, I think a voice coming together and having a voice to follow and to understand exactly what's going on. Martin, every time I see you, you're turning up. So I'm like, it's always good to see like the older folks of our community present. I think that there's a lot of us that are still going through a lot of grief and are very traumatized, so it's hard to also have a voice in those moments. But I think that there are so many resources and things that are going on right now that we have to kind of figure out how to move through that grief and be available to get these resources, because there are deadlines and they're not always going to be available. So what we're trying to do is just make space that it's easy for you guys to access and reach out. And as much as we want to give a voice, it's really just us creating a platform so that when you're ready to reach out for those resources, you have somewhere to go. So that's kind of what I see, and just some of the work that we're doing is just trying to elevate you guys, really, because it's your voice and what you need matters. So I just want there to be a space for you to come so we can elevate it.
Yeah. Do you think youth voices are being heard in this conversation?
I think youth voices are being heard. I mean, I got to give a shout out to Brandon Lamar. He's been on the ground since since all of it. I think he's been a big voice of the youth. I think he's inspired a lot of youth. I think that more of us need to step up because we have the capacity and we have the ability to be in different spaces, from social media to, sitting down with elders and doing the work. So I think that we need to step up a bit more, but I do think we're present, and I also think we have to respect each other's grief. Like, we're all going through this collectively, so having conversations with each other is equally as important, just talking.
I want to go back to James Farr, because I know you've been tracking this, and Martin said something that touched a nerve. I could feel it in the room, but I also know from my own following of what's happening here, which is a lot of people are asking, where is the money? A lot of nonprofits and individuals have done fundraisers, from GoFundMe's to donate to my organization. Who's tracking that? How do we know what's actually benefiting the people of Altadena and what's benefiting a general organization or lining somebody's pockets?
That's an excellent question, Dominique. And first, we have to understand that right now we are in the midst of a disaster economy. There is disaster and predatory capitalism at play right now. There is an ecosystem that is evolving, existing, and excluding people like Martin. So to answer your question, I don't have the money, Dominique. I can tell you that right now.
I'd have got it from you.
Yes. But ultimately, we'll know next year when 990 forms are filed. And then that will disclose fully, transparently. And for those of you who don't know what a 990 form, that's an IRS document that nonprofits are required to file. And it's a public document. So when you look at some of the larger collection plates, and they've initially announced that they've seeded organizations, they don't necessarily say how much they've seeded it with. That will come out. The simplest answer to your question, Dominique, is it's not making it to the Martin Gordons, to the many others here in this room who need, as I said, we were talking about recovery, right? This is a relief space. Martin and many others need relief. That's it. That's all.
Can I just add to that? Because I sit on the board of the
please.
California Community Foundation, which, as you know, has raised over $8
Attorney
million.
Crystal Nix-Hines.
And we have been getting it out the door to organizations. The majority of it has gone to organizations. Now, how they've been serving the community, I'm not sure. And obviously, there needs to be accountability there. But there are a lot of organizations that have been serviced. So I encourage you to go on the CCF website and see what organizations have gotten grants, and then knock on their doors.
If you're going to bring, I'm sorry, Dominique. I wasn't going to go here, but the Pasadena Community Foundation, I read where there was $70 million given to the Pasadena Community Foundation, that $20 million went to nonprofits. I looked on the website at the nonprofits. Most of the nonprofits I never heard of, kind of like the people coming into town saying they want to be on the realtor board now because there's stuff to be done. I didn't know half of them, none of them actually. Then they said that about 20 million, and there was $50 million more dollars that the Pasadena Community Foundation has, and they started a new organization in order to put that money out into the community. I have never heard of a nonprofit saying, I got money, now I'm going to start a new nonprofit to put money out. This is an Occam's razor issue. You know what Occam's razor is? It is, simplest method is probably the right one. Find out what we need. If I need $5 million, I'm sorry, I need $20 million. If I need $1 million or $500,000 for my home, put that money up there for me, have me draw it down, make me accountable that I put the money into doing my house, and then if I don't use the $500,000, take the rest of it back. This is simple.
But respectfully, Mr. Gordon, I mean, isn't it possible that a nonprofit from another jurisdiction may have some expertise or may be able to come in and legitimately help? Are we going to say that we're automatically disqualifying someone?
Oh, no.
Native to
this goes further than that, because those people, I'm glad to say, some of those are doing some good work and some are not. But I'm not concerned about that nonprofit group. All you nonprofits out there, please give us clothes, food, help. We really need mental health. I love them. I'm saying there's $50 million more dollars. Here's where I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And that I do not want to go to somebody inside or outside. I want it to go to who's these people who said they got affected by the fire? Raise your hand. I want it to go to us.
Yeah, okay, well, and we'll follow up more about how that works or doesn't work because, what resources people get is going to be key to whether or not you can rebuild, right? I mean, that sounds dumb and obvious, but it's true.
Absolutely.
And so I want to go back to Joel here because one of the things that I'm hearing is if folks have insurance, they may be underinsured. If they have had that house passed on to them, they may not have insurance at all, in which case I think it's like $50,000 you get from FEMA, which is not going to build anything in LA County. And even if you're fully insured, because of many factors, including tariffs, inflation, and the demand, it's going to cost more to rebuild than it would have 6 months ago. So how do we fill that gap between what people are getting and what they actually need to rebuild? I don't think nonprofits are authorized to just say, oh, you need $100,000 and you need $100,000. It'd be great if they were, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. So how do we bridge that gap? I mean, and yes, I will also, address this to some others on the panel as well.
Earlier, I mentioned that 6,600 homes burn. And when you do quick math of what the costs of building a 2,000 square foot house cost, it's over $6 billion to build 6,600 homes at the average cost of building. And breaking that down for the people that I'm helping go through this process, it's interesting. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's insurance policy is different. I'm talking with family and friends who both are insured by Mercury Insurance, but they have two different experiences and journeys. And so the challenge is to make, and there's others in this room that I know are greater experts than, I'm not an expert by any means in insurance, but I've been in the room long enough to know that there are limits you have in your policy. And even when you max out those limits, there's the dwelling, there's debris removal, there's code upgrades. Even with the sum of those buckets of money, it is a bit short of where housing costs or construction costs are today. And you're right, there's macroeconomic conditions like tariffs. We keep hearing this in and out of tariffs coming from the person in D.C., not even going to name him, but these tariffs, they're on, they're off, but most of the lumber comes from Canada that I've purchased. Take drywall and some of the lime and cement that goes into concrete. 74% of that comes from Mexico. So we have macroeconomic conditions that are going to impact the material cost of labor. We have a labor market, for example, drywall and plaster, half that labor force is undocumented. If you have undocumented workers who are fearful of what may happen, that may tamper down that labor pool. What happens when the supply of anything gets short in a market economy? The price goes up. So you're battling against these things. And you really can't pin a contractor down and do a fixed price contract to say you must build it at this price, because no contractor is going to agree that regardless of where prices go, they will build it for you. But the good, honest ones will figure it out along with the homeowner. Again, each homeowner who's building back needs to be a mini developer. Imagine being the general manager of an NFL team. Your contractor is the head coach, but you're the GM. So you got to think that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to toss it back to former U.S. ambassador to UNESCO, so I should say ambassador attorney Crystal Nix-Hines. When you talk about this gap between what people are going to get from their insurance or from FEMA or whatever resources they have and what it would actually cost to rebuild, I want to put it in the context of the litigation that is potentially happening. Given the options that people have to fully recover what they had, to rebuild at the level where they were before or better, and between insurance, the FEMA, the loans, the grants, why do you think survivors of the Altadena Eaton Fire should pursue litigation, if you do think that?
Well, it's always a personal choice whether to sue or not, but I would say that litigation plays an important piece for what we're talking about here today, because if you sue Southern California Edison, our goal is to collect the difference between what you've gotten from insurance and what it's going to cost to rebuild. There is that gap, that we've been talking about, and that's where the litigation comes in, because we want to make people fully whole. And that's what we would be pursuing, in your cases. And these are individual cases. They're not class actions. We prepare each case separately, file a complaint on your behalf, and then we will work with you, as our clients know, in a lot of detail to bring all the information that we need to present before a mediator. Most of these cases are consolidated before a mediator. They don't go to trial for the most part. And we want to present the most compelling narrative that we possibly can. If you've lost valuable treasures, you've got important childhood photographs, you've got valuable jewelry, you've lost important artwork, whatever it is that makes your story. In some cases, people have actually lost, relatives, right? Elderly people who barely got out with their lives. Like, all of that we need to tell in a very detailed, painstaking way before a mediator. And when you're thinking about, a firm, you want to make sure that it's a firm that's actually tried cases. We win at 86% of our cases firm-wide. Because, as you know, there's been every Tom, Dick, and Harry knocking on doors. Some of them are not from the state, 1 or 2 man shops. Some of them never presented, gone to court, right? So you really want to do your due diligence, take your time. If anyone makes you feel like you got to sign, you got to sign. Definitely that's a red flag. You want to make sure that you're comfortable with the counsel you choose. But it's really important to me, and that's why we're doing a lot of these outreaches, that our community exercises its legal rights. I'm really, concerned about, there's been some private equity coming in, offering cash deals under value, right? And, it would be a real shame if Altadena loses the character that it has. It's a really incredible community with a rich history. We talked about generational wealth. All of that is really important to preserve. And the best way to do that is to pursue your legal rights so that you get the resources that you need to rebuild.
It seems like what I'm following in the news, that more and more condemning evidence about the actions or lack of actions by Edison is coming out. It seems to me they even last week admitted that one of their dead lines may have caused this. For them to admit that in the LA Times, I'm trying to figure out why you wouldn't sue.
No, absolutely. I mean, the case in Eaton is really strong, and they did not pursue their own policies, which was to de-energize power if winds hit a certain level. And, we have investigators. We're going to be building a liability and damages case. But the evidence is pretty overwhelming that they're going to be liable. And so we all need to collectively hold them accountable so that we can force changes. They earned $15 million, and they only spent 10% of it on fire mitigation and recovery, right? And so we as a people and as a community need to say that's not right. You got to do the measures that will keep fires from happening. And if there are winds, you got to take measures to make sure that we don't experience the kind of fires that we've experienced in Altadena ever again.
Yeah, seems like that's an important.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure. I know this is probably true. Is that the other thing you will recover for us? Like I'm on your recover for us is the loss of use of our homes and the value that is to us, which is of a great magnitude. Am I correct there?
Yes, that's right. And also the emotional piece, right? All the emotional suffering that people have gone through, that all has a value as well that needs to be compensated for.
Yeah. It seems like that could be a key to that gap, right? If you burned it down, you have to build it back up, or at least be part of building it back up. Let's talk about a little bit more about that emotional piece. I think it's been underreported, and I was reading about a county mental health facility that was supposed to open here. James, you were writing about that is now in limbo. Seems like terrible timing to have a county public health facility that was supposed to go up for Altadena, Pasadena to be in limbo. What's happening with that? What do you know about what resources are available? particularly for young people, but for everybody?
Well, Dominique, at some point, I've long remarked that our electeds one day will actually have to show up and do their job. And a little over a year ago, there was a proposed partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Pasadena, to convert the Kaiser location over on Lake into a mental health facility that would have been able to better service this community. That was last year, right? So had they been prepared, no one could have anticipated what was going to happen January 7th, but that would have been another example of a resource where it wouldn't have been reactionary. And in just a little bit over an hour, our county supervisor, Barger, and our council are meeting right now to discuss a myriad of things, but one of them is this actual facility. So wouldn't it have been nice if they had actually done their job a year ago?
Yeah, and just to be clear, you don't see electeds up on the panel. It's not because we didn't think of it. We will more than likely do another town hall meeting with them, but we want to start with the people and what's needed in terms of right now, rebuild, support, what you need. There's plenty of time for electeds. You and I have talked about this on the show. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on it, but I feel like...
well, I think it's important, Dominique, to point out that the 5th District is one of the second densely populated African-American community in Los Angeles County. And so there's a large concentration of us here.
And it's represented by the only Republican on the LA County Board of Supervisors. Not that we automatically hate Republicans, but I do feel like there has been a pass given.
I don't know if there's been a pass given.
So
we will call her in, though.
So you think there's been full accountability and transparency by elected officials representing this area? I
think she's ducking the invitation to come on Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, and talking about it. That's what I think.
To be continued. To be continued. And you know, the rebuilding, everyone tells me the recovery from a disaster of this magnitude is in phases, right? There's, your immediate, get us food, water, clothing. Then there's rebuilding. Then there's a long-term picture. And I want to go to you, Ash, because I think those of us who don't live here, but who it's our job to shine a spotlight, are trying to get a feel for where you are and how we can fit into that picture to be supporters but not exploiters.
I would just, as much as you can, try to follow along, listen to, of course, James Farr, tap in online, connect with your community that you know is out here, to follow along with what's going on and ask people how they're doing, like it's okay, like tap in, like really, we need to have these conversations in order to get to the next level. And everyone wants to talk about Altadena is not for sale, but there is so much rebuilding conversation and there's so many of the other conversations that are happening, yet we're not talking to the people that are not ready to rebuild yet. We need to bring them with us and we need to kind of like hold the rebuilding until everybody is ready to at least have these conversations, or we're going to rebuild without them just by default. So I think it's really important to continue to remember and make space and connect with your community as much as possible.
And a lot of those resources are on Instagram, right? I know you're there at Altadena Rising, Neighborhood Servants with you. They're there. Conversation Live. Anybody else?
I wanted to say earlier, you mentioned some mental health resources. So there's Connected to Rise. They're doing an event that's coming up with Jennifer Kerr. She's a Black therapist. She's amazing. And then we have Dina Hills, who's located in Paseo. They have a location. They also have a shop where you can go get anything that you need. And they have consistent weekly just events all the time for mental health services.
And we've put together a resource list as well. We have packets outside. One of our team members, Sydney Martin, who's here, has put together a really comprehensive list of all sorts of resources. So I encourage you to pick up an envelope. We also have great little hats that you can pick. But we want to make sure that people are equipped with all the resources that you may need, from debris removal to resources to get supplies, public adjusters if you need somebody to advocate for you on behalf of insurance, a whole list, mental health, lots of things. So I encourage you to pick that up.
And your website?
There's packets outside at a table as you're exiting.
So just look up Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers if you're in another part of town. If you're staying with your family in Palmdale and watching us on the stream. Martin, Gordon, I want to ask you and anyone else who wants to weigh in on this. We talk a lot about rebuilding and, not judging people if they want to leave or whatever the options are. I don't think we had a great conversation on my show last week with Michelle White from Neighborhood Servants. I think renters are getting left out of the conversation, and they are also stakeholders in this area. It shouldn't be left out just because they don't own a house.
I'm so glad you said that, because there are so many renters who have been put out on the street, and where the owners have the ability to actually build back. And instead of doing that, the avaricious businessman does this. The house is burnt down, you get out, I'm going to refurbish it, and I'm going to raise the rent and put somebody else in it. And I understand they're talking about, some of the people who should be here to help us. There's some legislation to try to stop some of this stuff, but the bottom line is that they have nowhere to go. They have no insurance. They have no insurance whatsoever. If they had a little bit of insurance on their rental property, that means they're just out of luck. And what they're going to get from FEMA, well, you didn't lose your house. Gosh, these people are really having a difficult time. Not to say that we aren't too, but we have some resources we can get to. But I think the rental population is really in dire need. And I haven't figured out yet. The coalition is looking at this, along with people like Ash and lots of the nonprofits we're talking about. We have to, one of the things we don't do is we're in these pockets, and we don't really get all these people together to work at that, because we really got to look at what's happened to some of these people, because I had someone call me at the Pasadena Community Coalition say I'm on the street because it's just this issue. Back to us that want to build back, I found so many people in Altadena. Most people in Altadena, especially in the black community, were underinsured. You have to be insured, but you get underinsured. So you don't have the money to build back. So we're looking to FEMA. FEMA can only do so much. All this other money that's out there, we're looking to those people to say, if you're going to help us, bring that money here so that we can become whole and build back. Some of the people, though, come to me and say, Martin, I can't wait. There's nothing I can do, and I'm going to sell my land. I went, please don't do that. There is a organization right now who's looking at buying land in that circumstance, and they bought one already for over $500,000, and they will save it, especially in the black community, and sell it back to black people again. Right on, because that's what we need to do. And so that's difficult.
Is that the Altadena Community Land Trust that you're talking about?
That's not it.
Okay.
Her name is.
I'm pretty sure it's Green Line Housing.
Jasmine
Housing. You want to speak on that a little bit, Ash?
Oh. I'm not the housing lane, but yes, I love Jasmine. She's great. She's doing great work. She's very passionate. She really cares about the community. She's one of those people that when you speak with her, it's like she gets it. So I would suggest anyone in that situation to really reach out. She's really accessible. She's at a lot of these fairs and has a great team that really want to figure out how do we keep homeowners here and safe and comfortable in order to be in the right positions to make the decisions that they need to make to move forward.
Yeah.
So,
and she put displaced people in homes.
Yes.
She put displaced people in homes. Yeah. Thank you, wherever you are, my dear. That's what we're talking about.
And I think, you were the one, Martin, that said we can't judge people if they decide to sell. If I'm 90 and it's going to take 5 years to rebuild my home, maybe I don't want to wait around, right? But it's good to know that there's other opportunities. Okay, getting to the near the top of the hour, James, can you give me the short version?
Absolutely. The most devastating part for me, Dominique, I've spoken with over 100 impacted folks who've lost their homes. Seniors are aging in place in this community, and the disorientation, the loss of space, the loss of a sense of safety has been one of the most hardest parts to sit and digest. So we have to prioritize our senior population first.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said. I want to go back to Attorney Crystal Nix Hines. You mentioned that there's a lot of attorneys around. right now, just as there's a lot of architects and builders, what makes Quinn Emanuel stand out from all these other firms in this scenario that we're in right now?
Well, thank you. And first of all, just to pick up on what you said, we just filed a complaint in Palisades on behalf of a number of elderly seniors, and there's a provision in the law that allows seniors to have their cases expedited within a 4-month period. So we want to make sure that all seniors understand that they can have their cases expedited. Obviously, you need to be ready to try it in a rapid period of time, but I don't want any seniors to feel hopeless or helpless. We all need to lift them up. And in terms of us, first of all, we care. I hope that's come through. We really care about this community, and we want to do everything possible to help. I had the privilege of being a law clerk to the late Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, and and he always impressed upon all of us the importance of us doing all that we can and using all of our talents to work for justice. And if you see injustice, he always said, don't act like you don't see it, do something. And so that's what we want to do. We want to use our skills and our talents to help members of this community to be justly compensated for the devastation that you've suffered. And I think you'll see that we bring the same professionalism and intensity that we do for our corporate clients to our individual clients here that have been victimized by the wildfires. And we give an individual approach. We assign specific lawyers to each client who comes in the door. Jeff and I and some other partners oversee each case. We read through each complaint. We make sure that are able to present the most compelling case possible. We've been litigating wildfires since 2007. We've been involved in all of the biggest fires on the West Coast, so we bring that breadth of experience, and we want to use it to make sure that everyone here receives what they should.
Absolutely. This is our Altadena Eaton Canyon 100 Days and Counting Town Hall, live from Pasadena. And I'm so thankful to see such a full room, so many people here. Give yourselves a round of applause just for really showing up for each other. I want to follow up on this idea that I started out with, talking about the testing of the ground, right, if you are going to rebuild. Again, there's been several articles this week talking about folks self-testing because they happen to be scientists that live in a house and they decided to go and see if the ground was safe. And there's these high levels of lead, right? The federal government is not testing every property. As a builder, what would you advise how would you advise a homeowner to proceed? You don't want to build back on a toxic site that's going to cause damage to your family.
True, Dominique. I mean, it's from these fires, there's lead, there's asbestos, there's benzene, and a plethora of other toxins that I can't even pronounce. But with respect to the people that I'm working with, I have connected them with a company that can do independent testing if they so choose. I recommend they do. The county does have different monitoring stations around town where they're going to monitor the air, the water, and the soil. But for a cost of $4,000 to do the testing, roughly, I think it could give you some assurance. Perhaps it will show results that don't make you comfortable, but I think it's still early. I haven't seen the results of any soil testing, but as was alluded to, Altadena, this is an eclectic community. Everybody, all type of folks here. There are a lot of scientists and people who work at JPL and Caltech,
right.
And some of them have posted that they've done their own testing, and the results have come back at a level that's not acceptable to to human activity. The environment always has toxins, but at a certain point, it's not healthy, and so it's still early. I do think that each person, for an amount of $4,000, again, roughly, should perhaps do their own testing to give themselves some comfort.
And then if it comes back crazy, you're going to have to look
You have
at
to make another
whatever
decision.
the costs are to mitigate that.
But I'm just hopeful that some of the electeds and some of the other sources of funding could assist in this effort to get this community back. It's fire's devastating. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. Martin Gordon, you're a longtime activist. What is it? What's your call to action for activists, not just in Altadena, but, throughout the region and throughout the country who want to be in it for the long haul, who want to be solid partners to this community, this beloved community?
Get to your elected officials. Believe it or not, we are putting some pressure on our elected officials and to the nonprofits too. We have to, if you're an activist, get to the people who have the money. I'm talking about get in front of their businesses, write them letters, talk to your congressman, talk to your person, and tell them that this is what we need. And us in this community, we'll write it down on a piece of paper for you. It's that easy. And say, these are the things that we need. And when we put it out there, let's get to the people. And I ain't talking about the guy upstairs there, in Washington, D.C. He ain't going to do nothing for us. But the rest of these people in our communities that are accountable to us, we have to make them accountable by showing that we will act. This is war. Don't make no mistake about it. This is war. Go up to Altadena and look. It looks like Vietnam. This is war. And so in war, you must prepare. If you want peace, you must prepare for war. So we must prepare to get on those people that have the money and start to put the pressure on them to actually do what's needed for us to thrive and survive and build back Altadena better, build back Altadena black.
Ash, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, to also add on to building Altadena back and Greenland Foundation, she does have a building in Glendale right now with units where she's trying to get homeowners to that are struggling to move in there. She will cover the portion of the rent that you're not able to cover. So they're trying to do whatever it is possible to get folks housed in order to do what's next. So if you are in that position, please reach out to Greenline Housing because they're currently moving people in there now and are doing everything they can to make it possible for you to stay here.
Ash, I have a follow-up question for you. We're talking a lot about the challenges. What is the most inspiring thing that you've seen or experienced in this whole disaster process?
I love this question. The spirit of Altadena and the love of the community and the way that we have come together and just look at the room and everywhere that we go in our hearts is so raw and it's so present in everything that we do. We obviously just went through something crazy, like the conversations that I'm having with long-term recovery wild survivors. It's what? It's wild, but I hope that through this tragedy, that the way that we build back, and I know we have Pastor Kernan here, we have Beauty to Ashes, and there's so many leaders that have stepped up that are just so ready to help and to love and to be here. So for anyone that is nervous to reach out and ask for help, just know there's so much of a community here that is willing and ready and wants to elevate and help you and love on you to the end.
Can I make a shout out to someone? This is important because people ask, say, what can I do for you? And you tell them, and then they run to the high hills. Go ahead and laugh, because this is what happens. And I don't want to give the example, but this happens. But when I reached out to the community and all my friends and said, oh, help me this, help me there, Black Lives Matter called me within 3 days. Melina Abdullah, I love you. And they came to my office, the Pasadena Community Coalition. They cleared out all the old crazy clothes that were in there. They made sure we got ourselves together so we could give back to the community. They made sure that I was okay. Got me a new cell phone. Said, what else do you need? I need somebody to walk around with you and help you get it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we need to do. You're an activist. Let that be your guide. Black Lives Matter. Ask asked them to come and help black people, and they came.
Yeah, absolutely. And I happen to know they handed out grants to a lot of folks, which is what you keep saying, folks need money. Attorney Crystal Nix-Himes, and you're not the only one. What do you see, what is you say the most common mistake folks are making in trying to put their lives back together that you wish they knew better?
Look, I mean, it's a really hard time. You know, I think everyone up here on the panel has talked about the emotional toll and the feeling of being overwhelmed, and that's totally understandable. But I think it would be a mistake to let that cloud the possibility of pursuing your rights and standing up for what you believe in and for pushing back on the wrongs that have occurred here. You know, so it's really important to take care of yourself, take care of your family, get reestablished. You were talking about the loss of sense of place. All of that is incredibly important. But we also have to keep a clarity of mind, right? We have to see the end game. And how am I going to get to be able to restore my family to the home that we had? And part of that is pursuing your legal rights. It doesn't cost anything. These are contingency cases. You don't have to put up any money up front. So I really encourage all of us to do it all. You know, it feels really hard, and it's easy maybe for me to say sitting from this vantage point, but we had to evacuate, and there go by the grace of God go we, right? It could have happened to us. So there are people here that, you know, are willing to help and want to help and support you and see you through. So I just hope that you don't look back and feel like, I wish I had done it, right? I wish I had decided to hold these people accountable.
Yeah, Joel, I want to ask you the same question as a housing developer and builder. What is a mistake or two that you see folks making that you might be able to share something with us now to help them not make it?
I think one thing that troubles me are those who have decided to sell their property because they're overwhelmed. And Martin mentioned earlier the seniors. The seniors need help. But that decision to just, I'm out of here, I don't want to deal with this. When you look at Altadena, you could perhaps understand why they feel that way. But, you know, give yourself some grace, clarity of mind, get in a quiet space and really try to think through this process. Because building infrastructure, a building is a simple process. It's not complicated, but it does take money. It does take patience. It does take professionals. And it takes people you can trust.
And how do we find a contractor who's not crooked?
That's difficult. It really is. I can't sit up here. I wish I had an answer for how you can find the contractor that's going to do right by you. And I don't. It's, again, 6,600 properties. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and my concern, and again, as a Altadenan who went to Audubon and to John Muir, and
coming to the end of the hour here.
Okay, so. I just want to say it's it concerns me, and I don't have the answer of how to find the right contractor that can just. You got to vet them.
Yeah,
you got to vet them.
Real quick.
Could I put a face on this for us real quick?
Yes, very quickly.
Across the street from me is a family. The grandmother lives there. The mother lives there. The kids live there. The grandkids live there. There are 3 houses there. They burned to the ground. They had limited insurance, and they're talking about selling. Generational wealth there. They've been there for 40 some odd years. That's what we're talking about. We got to save those properties. Those are older people. They've been there for 30, 40 years. That's what we're talking about. We got to save our people.
Thank you. And just really quickly, James Farr, I know you've been tracking resources and which are constantly changing. This is helpful. Now it's gone. Where would you steer people in terms of folks that are still in need of whatever to keep track of what resources are still available and what are coming online?
I would check in with Neighborhood Servants. I would check in with Altadena Rising. I would check in with Dena Relief Drive. And then every Saturday at 10 a.m. and a replay on Sunday at noon, Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, the show of record where we are chronicling for the nation. And we will not let Altadena be forgotten. I'm so proud of you guys for showing up here today, and it's Dina Strong.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to thank Ash Level, Joel Bryant, Martin Gordon, and attorney Crystal Nix Hines, and of course James Farr.
Thank you for listening to Altadena After the Fire. If you found this episode meaningful, please share it to help spread awareness. Coming up on the next episode.
First, I want to say, I was amazed that people didn't know that black people lived in Altadena. I was like, where have you been? I've been here. We've been here. I've been here 61 years. What do you mean this is new to you and you don't know? But as a historical society usually works on a budget of about $45,000. And what it is, it archives history of Altadena. We have received over $100,000 and is specifically marked to archive Black history in Altadena.
To support those affected by the Eaton Fire, consider donating to the Brotherhood Crusade's Wildfire Relief Fund at brotherhoodcrusade.org. Your contributions provide essential resources like food, medicine, and housing assistance to families in need. If you have updated information or a first-hand story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Contact details are in the show notes. Altadena After the Fire is an Urban One podcast. Executive producer and host, Kobe Tyner. Assistant producer, Jahi Whitehead. Director of podcasting, Dre Smith. Special thanks to the Urban One Cares team and our founder, Kathy Hughes. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.